What's up? Of course, I've been enjoying listening to K-Love. I don't know why I keep mixing up with iHeart. It's because down where my home is, we get Air One. I think we get K-Love down there too, but I mainly listen to Air One. For obvious reasons. But up here we get K-Love, and I've been enjoying it. I got to a point I just been sort of just leaving this how it is, so I have some sort of ambient light other than coming from the bathroom. And then I've been just kind of reading some messages and all that stuff. I mean, from a group that I've been, just reading the messages and stuff, and just kind of seeing how what people were saying a bit, and just kind of reading it. Of course, there's a lot of stuff I can definitely relate to. But I think there's this, like, a bit of confusion that, that people have between... I'm going to touch on a couple things, I guess. I think people confuse faith and religion as being the same thing. And in my mind, from how I understand it, and the way I view it, is religion is based in a cultural practice of worship that is intended to help strengthen your faith in God. See, religion is a more or less, it's a cultural practice or tool to help, and it's multifaceted, like a Swiss Army knife. It's got multiple tools to it that are intended to help carve you into a better person. Where faith, and not just that, it's also, like I said, it's supposed to help strengthen your faith, where your faith is within your heart and your soul. And I think people just kind of blend the two together like a bunch. And that's why I've always kind of firmly believed that, like what my grandma had told me, and I believe it. It's, God speaks to each person in a way that that individual can understand. Whether it's through various forms of faith and religion, or just out in the world, like the message comes through. Whether it's listening to the radio, or you start, here everywhere. And I mean everywhere. You be out on your walks and just kind of you could be out in the middle of the woods, middle of the desert, something. And as long as you pay attention enough, it might take a while to kind of, listen, but once you're able to kind of, I guess you could say, tune in a little bit, it makes it a little, I guess, a little easier to see or understand. It's not like it's verbal words, and it's not like it's something that's going up like necessarily. One of my favorite songs, Elevation Worship. But it's not like you're hearing words or this type of stuff in your head. It's like, dude, sure you're not, going nuts. Half the time I think I am going nuts, but you're not dealing with something that's more or less like would be considered possibly like a mental disorder, or disability, or whatever you want to call it. Dealing with some form of personality disorder where you got like split personality going on, or you're dealing with some form of schizophrenia, something of that nature. But if you're paying attention to the world around you and all that stuff, and just kind of all that, it kind of helps. It's like you can kind of pull in that message a bit. And when you're not so absorbed on just yourself, and you're just kind of paying attention to what's going on around you a bit, you can kind of see, everybody can see where things are going wrong, but they're just so busy, like, they're so busy, complaining about what's wrong versus trying to, like, set whatever difference is or whatever the issue is that people can't work at, and just find that common ground and be able to communicate to a sense to fix an issue. When it comes to because I'm also part of a narcissistic abuse group and all that stuff, and I've been kind of paying attention to this thing about this whole men and women thing. One thing that they're right about: men do not have the advocacy that women do. It's been a demasculating system, is what it is. It's degrading and demasculating. This isn't to say that women do not deserve any form of protection, any form of representation, anything like that. Now, some of what I'm about to say is going to kind of come out funny or odd and not. It's just I don't know how else to say it, so please don't be a pervert. But where men fall short in life when it comes to, that more nurturing, soft type nature, a lot of men tend to fall short in that. And there's other aspects of where being a man is concerned that we fall short that women are able to lift up. And I'm not talking about that, which that's an obvious, but just to get you to, whatever. But where women fall short also on things, that's where it's the man's duty to do their part to help lift them up. It's a duality. And when we're dealing with systems that do this constant triangulation in all aspects, we're dealing with a system that has triangulated people against each other based on sex, religion, status, whether it's financial status or whatever. And you're always hearing who's right, who's wrong. I mean, they're doing this, they triangulate race, all this stuff. This is very much what we're dealing with these days, is narcissistic abuse, even from on a global standard amongst pretty much all governments. And these people who feel that we're supposed to kiss their ass. In my eyes, the only person that we bow down to is God. A woman is not to be bowing down to a man, and a man is not to be bowing down to a woman. We are to be showing each other respect and absolute love for each other. And if somebody's making mistakes or doing things that they shouldn't be, we shouldn't be afraid to correct the other. And it's not done out of malice, and it's not done out of being vengeful. It's not done out of any type of negative space. It's about saying, hey, in essence, without saying it literally, it's like, I love you, but you need to stop. We all have these flaws, all of us. It's almost like it's built into us. It's the ability to try and recognize it and address it. And when I see people talking about, getting therapy specifically for the kids, that type of stuff, and people, others getting offended by it. Oh, I've done this, that, and the other for the to be able for the kids, and you shouldn't be getting therapy, period, for your kids. You should be getting it for yourself. And if you're going, say, like couples therapy, it's not just for yourself, it's for each other. Because if you're married in a relationship, you are basically to be, in essence, acting as one. Does this mean you don't have the right to have free thought, free ability, and, each sort of having their own lives in a way of, one has their job, the other has their job, they both kind of have their part, but it's about that teamwork that's in the middle. Both sides have these rights, men and women both. And it doesn't matter what your background is. What people don't have right to do is to take advantage and manipulate each other's emotions or what have you. There's just so many things on that it's just right now my head's still dealing with other things, and part of it, my mind is just, it's kind of a bit scrambled right now. But I think people forget that like, as I've said before, when it comes to your relationships and all that, once you become married, you're not making like just this promise that you've got on a piece of paper and you say these words in front of, whether it's 10 people or 10,000 people and all that. You're making a verbal, written contract between each other and God. The act of what you're doing is sort of less, what do you call it? A ritual, in essence, kind of signifying the physical action that this is what you're doing. You're sharing that heart space for each other and with God. I keep quiet a lot about my faith, my spirituality, all that, because it's not just the discriminatory aspect thing. My thoughts and faith don't always mesh well with others when it comes to whether it's the various forms of the Christian, might as well say, of the Abrahamic faiths, because I struggle to view them as like completely different groups. It's a family to me. That you've got your siblings, and Christians are the cousins. Otherwise, if it wasn't for Jesus, we would not have been brought into the family. It's almost like a marriage contract. And so when I'm seeing people fighting over, about how a man is supposed to have all this control in a household, and basically, there's supposed to be some level of dominance there. No, there's got to be equal, I guess you could say an equal dominance. A man should be willing to submit to his wife equally as his wife submitting to him within reason, because you're not there to be her master or her slave driver. She's not there to be your master or slave driver. You're almost like in some ways, when in union, you're kind of like functioning like Siamese twins. Each side of you has its own set of beliefs, its own set of thoughts. It's their own set of, a lot of that. They'll have similarities. They'll have shared interests. They'll have those types of things. But we spend so much time wanting to mold people into ourselves. It's like, why don't you just go off and go stand in front of a mirror and go be in love with yourself? Go marry yourself. Instead of trying to change the person you're with into yourself, a reflection of yourself, start learning to love them for who they are and those differences, because that's what's helping you guys both to each sort of make each other better. You didn't fall in love with each other because you thought they were an exact replication of yourself. If that's the case, well, that's sort of vanity. That's a bit of self-lusting, all that shit. It's just kind of weird. I understand love doesn't have boundaries, but there is limitations when it comes to certain acts. And I know a lot of people seem to forget lust is not love. And there's just a lot of things I'm seeing. I see different people kind of arguing about it. And it's like they all have really good points. Like I get that part. I get that part. I actually agree with all you guys. It's just there's certain things that's being said that I have to listen to myself too, because I'm guilty of some of the shit too, where it's like I allow my emotions to go into play it, and I just all over the place, and then it's like I should not have said that, or what have you. We all have found ourselves in that, and it's like I think the hard part is understanding even the difference between being mindful of ourselves and sort of being prideful or vain with ourselves. I mean, I'm not sure I'm using the right words. It's just I don't want to see any man being treated like they're fucking doormat. I don't want to see any woman being treated like a doormat. Yet every man or woman has right to speak up for themselves in their defense and in their protection if the other is getting out of line or doing things that are harming you. And so I mean I'm painting this with kind of a broad with a broad stroke or a big paintbrush, but whatever you want to call it. Because I'm trying to make it as simple as possible that, that people can really understand. It's important to know when you need to get help and when you know you need to get therapy, because when your brain is going, oh yeah, I'm not doing that, that's a sign that it's going, you either need to recognize this part that needs to be addressed, that like, no, there's just no reason to just hate somebody like that, even though they hurt you. That's part of the disease, is reciprocating that hatred towards the person that hurts you. It's one thing when you address the problem. And when it comes to cases like abuse, whether it's mental, psychological, spiritual, sexual, physical, social, anything like that. It's one thing when you address their actions, the abusive nature that they're doing, all that, and you're defending yourself. It's another when you're outright, like, trying to hurt them. I feel that, especially in these situations of various types of abuse, that the person committing the abuse, just as the victim, deserves help. The downside for them in that situation is they need to be kind of, in essence, placed in a situation where they're not. Because I don't necessarily believe in forcing people against their free will of doing things they don't want to. But when they're doing things that are out of intentional, cause intentional harm, malice, all that, for whatever reasons behind it, they need to be put into a setting where they have to face these demons that they have and get help through it. Not do everything they can to avoid it, be in a situation where they can run from it, or lie to people or manipulate people into thinking, oh, they're much better now. It's like, no, we all have these really bad flaws. It's whether or not we can recognize them. And sometimes we'll have flaws that go under even our own radar because we don't recognize that could be a flaw. And so, when I'm seeing people starting to argue, like, I'm not going to, somebody's, getting upset going, I'm not going to get therapy just for the kids. No. If you're having problems, no matter how light or how big it is, if it's affecting your life, affecting your relationships, you get help when you have the opportunity to do so. I don't think everybody is in the same shoes where they can just go right out, go get a doctor or a therapist like that night and have it scheduled and ready to go and start seeing the doctor in a week or two. And not everybody has that because the financial access is not there for everybody. They're limited based on their individual circumstantial situation. And so expecting one person to do what the next person can do, or the next person, what we're doing is we're projecting ourselves onto all these people going, well, if I can do it, you can do it. There are things that everybody can do. Which one of them is like finding their faith in God? That is something everybody can do. Everybody can breathe. Everybody, move about or think that, there's other obvious things. I'm just, like I said, simplifying it. But there's a lot of things that people can't do, and it's not just given the system that we live under that seems to be designed to favor only a certain type of mindset versus a certain gender or a certain thing. It's like a mindset that it's a system that's set that only people who are cutthroat and are willing to do really like messed up things for them to progress, and even fewer people who genuinely are good people are able to do so in a manner I guess you can say with a similar ease, because it seems like when people get really cutthroat and all, they're like, oh, this is a shortcut. Problem is, you're cutting one person after another just to get there, and that's a lot of blood on your hands on the way to your success that you've got to pay for later and answer for. There's a reason why they tell you when you're a kid, not when you're walking home from school, don't take alleyways and shortcuts and all that all the time, because you don't know what you might come across or who you'll come across. That sometimes the path that has been set in front of you to go home, that you know is safe, is probably the best way to keep going for a while. Doesn't mean nothing can change. It's just as you are learning and progressing in life and learning, getting those experiences and all that under, can you decide, well, it might be safe for me to cut through here. It's just I have to be more aware. I don't want to see people feeling like that when they're hurt. They've got to, like, sort of return that pain. Granted, no matter what, when you're held accountable for things that you've done wrong, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good at all. But in the end, when you've faced it, you've dealt with it, not, sure, that's something that you're dealing with and that you're carrying with you for the rest of your life, but it doesn't mean you can't forgive yourself in the process, or you can't learn from it and help teach others basically from those mistakes. Humans don't learn from being perfect. Humans learn from mistakes. If we got everything right all the time, and every time, we wouldn't have learned nothing. And this is a common thing that we all know, we all can agree on, but I don't think we really recognize it. But that's my little short ramble. No, I think people have got to really revisit the idea of where equality's at when it comes to men and women. The idea that some people are arguing, that there's like some sort of hierarchy, that somehow, yeah, in the home space and all that stuff, no, men and women are equals. And if you're married, yeah, I've already just gone over that. I don't want to ramble some more. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You guys try and have a good day and be safe out there. Later.